KSPR's Survive the Storm with Chief Meteorologist Kevin Leidy, Meteorologist Lindsay Slater, and Meteorologist Bob Trihey. Now, KSPR Chief Meteorologist Kevin Leidy.
Welcome to Survive the Storm. We start off with Mother Nature's most powerful storm, tornadoes. But all the right ingredients must come together to create this dangerous storm. And Lindsay Slater has a look at just what all it takes.
Well, even though it's been quiet the past few years, one of the biggest concerns everyone always has with severe weather is always tornadoes. Now, you can better understand severe storms if you understand how they form. So first, the environment has to be ready, which means a lot of ingredients have to come together. So we're going to start with a cloud. Just like your cup of coffee that gets you going in the morning, a cloud needs energy to become a thunderstorm. Hang on a second. There we go. Now you have your thunderstorm. So how does this turn into a tornado? Ingredient number 2, decent moisture. Now here's where things get really interesting. We need to add some more energy. So we have our thunderstorm. It has energy, it has moisture, it has more energy. So what about the tornado? Well, you see these little wind arrows kind of rolling across the ground? Well, what happens is a thunderstorm has an updraft, kind of like a car intake. It takes these winds and it pushes them up into the storm. That creates vertical rotation. That is the key ingredient to get a tornado. At this point, you're going to get a weather alert, so take shelter immediately.
We've heard the saying, if a tree falls in the woods and no one is around, does it make a sound? Well, that same concept applies to tornadoes. If a tornado touches down but does so in a manner that doesn't produce any damage, is it a tornado? That theory is being put to the test with groundbreaking new tornado data.
About 2 years ago, the National Weather Service upgraded its radar to dual polarization. What this now allows the radar to do is detect the size and general shape of an object. For instance, a raindrop, a snowflake, or a hailstone. But it can also pick up on debris that is lofted into the air at heights of thousands of feet and suspended for an extended period of time as a result of a tornado. And on new dual polarity radar, it shows up as a tornado debris signature, or TDS for short. And now more of these signatures are showing up on radar, leading to some interesting revelations, as meteorologist Doug Kramer from the National Weather Service explains.
Prior to this technology, we've always speculated that there's actually more tornadoes that occur across southern Missouri than what we actually documented. And what this technology is doing is confirming that speculation.
One of the first times a TDS showed up on radar in our area was during the Branson Leap Day tornado. Take a look at this graphic here. See that little area of blue over Branson? That's the TDS, or basically the radar saying, hey, this is debris from a tornado. The purple color is nothing but just rain and hail. When the National Weather Service went to confirm this tornado, they found damage all around Branson and along the Highway 76 strip. It lined up perfectly with radar data that showed that TDS. But what if you have a TDS on radar, but when you go look for the damage, you can't find any?
National Weather Service, we cannot officially document a tornado until we go out and survey that damage. We've got to see that damage in order to give it an EF rating. We're seeing tornadoes pop up in rural areas and out in the wooded areas where there's not a whole lot of population, and we're not getting the damage reports back into the National Weather Service.
The problem is most of our tornadoes here in the Ozarks are very weak EF zeros that can have winds as low as 65 miles per hour. Sometimes the debris is nothing more than sticks or maybe even just leaves. Things small enough that when someone goes out to do a storm survey, they are unable to find any damage. So it can't be ruled a tornado officially by the National Weather Service, even though the radar data is confirming that some kind of debris was tossed in the air.
In order to help the National Weather Service with official tornado numbers, it is important for you to report any damage on your property. You can do that by notifying the Weather Service, or you can hit us up here through our social media pages or email us weather@kspr.com.
When severe weather threatens, we tell you to seek shelter, but a lot of people don't because they have pets and they can't go in the shelters. But according to some new funding, that might not be a problem anymore. KSPR's Lee Moody shows you why.
The Humane Society of Joplin was overrun with more than 1,300 displaced, injured, and lost animals after 2011's EF5 tornado.
We have a lot of room to grow.
This Greene County emergency management trailer of meager animal supplies isn't nearly enough to handle an influx like that. That's why the county's Community Emergency Response Team, or CERT coordinator, recently secured a $5,000 grant from the ASPCA.
That will help us immensely in purchasing animal supplies and equipment that's vital in our needs and our goals. We're going to be setting up what are called intake centers. Those are places where the animals were either they're transported there or we've gathered the animals to that location.
The plan is to set up those mobile intake centers near established people shelters so that people who wouldn't normally come here and would try to ride things out at home with their pets can drop their pets off at the intake center and then quickly go seek shelter for themselves.
We will take them in and give them shelter and keep them safe until we can get them returned back to their owner.
The Emergency Vet Clinic is the county's animal response team partner. Senior veterinarian Bonnie Toner says the grant will take care of the supplies. What they need now is manpower to use those supplies.
We need volunteers. We need CERT members, so people to volunteer to become a CERT member, and then they can join the animal response team.
If you'd like to volunteer with the Greene County Animal Response Team, just go to KSPR.com and click on our Survive the Storm section, and there you're going to find this story and all the information you'll need.
What would you do if you had 15 minutes notice to leave your home in the event of severe weather? Would you have all your vital articles ready to go at a moment's notice? We have a solution to give you peace of mind. It's called a go bag or a bob bag, like me, a bug out bag. You want to have a nice sturdy bag to pack your essentials in the event of a disaster. Some of those can include key documents like birth certificates, licenses, titles to cars, or a deed to your home. Some things you want to pack: sturdy clothes like jeans, also important medications, a phone, that's very important, make sure you have it charged up, electrical cords too for your computers, laptops, and your cell phones as well, and mementos like my dog Charlie, me and my wife, and my grandmother, so you want to grab those as well and put those in your go bag too. Remember to pack the toiletries maybe in a bag like this, things like a hairbrush or underarm antiperspirant, a toothbrush, and a toothpaste, and also importantly remember to pack the toilet paper. Other important items to remember is a flashlight, preferably a crank one that doesn't use batteries, and of course a weather radio to give you the very latest on the severe weather heading your way. Once your go bag is packed and ready to go, all you do is grab it and take it down to the tornado shelter with you.
You may have noticed our new KSPR weather app. It's really neat because it's got this rotator function so you can find things easier. And this app does so much more than the one that came with your phone. For example, we have our map feature here. It shows the radar, satellite, temperatures, even updated road conditions during wintry weather. Now this is also where you're going to select which alerts you want to get straight to your phone or your tablet when the storms strike. And if at any point in time you want to go back to that rotator menu, all you need to do is click the early warning weather button at the top left. Click on video forecasts for exactly that. Our forecasts are updated at least once or twice a day. All you need to do, hit play. And next up, our early warning weather rundown. What we can't show or explain in our limited time on air with you, we can go more in depth. We just don't tell you about it. We show you pictures, in-depth graphics, and even circle exactly what you need to know. And if your power goes out in a storm, our app has you covered there too. You can still watch our live storm coverage from your phone or your tablet, no TV needed. See? Click here. And part of our video tab is also live streaming. And last but not least, we want you guys to send us pictures of all the weather across the Ozarks. It's so much more than just Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can do it right in the app. All you need to do is click on photos and just follow the directions. But I'm forgetting one thing, the most important thing. It's free.
Coming up on Survive the Storm.
How many of you, when there's a tornado warning issued, actually take shelter?
How do you react to the wild weather in the Ozarks? A KSPR town hall meeting asks the questions you've always wanted to ask. Also, many people struck by lightning are on the golf course. But did you know it's not even in the top 3? The top 5 places you don't want to be in a lightning storm. Plus, could there really be Sharknado? we put Hollywood weather movies to the test. But first, did you know that KSPR has a dedicated team of weather watchers across the Ozarks? Each day, they record things like temperatures and rainfall, helping the early warning weather team tell the weather story. If you think you've got what it takes to join our team, email us at weather@kspr.com. Survive the Storm returns after this. Welcome back to Survive the Storm. Here's Chief Meteorologist Kevin Lighty.
Recently, KSPR gathered together a diverse group of individuals to talk about topics concerning severe weather in the Ozarks. Here are a few segments from that town hall meeting. Let's talk about tornadoes, tornado warnings and things. How many of you, when there's a tornado warning issued, actually take shelter? Raise your hands.
Oh.
Nobody. Nobody. Sometimes. Why? Why is that?
Because there's not one there at the moment. It's not going to affect me right at that moment.
I live in a house that basically doesn't have a basement or a place to go. So I just watch the weather and don't really worry about it. There's been one time in the last 15 years, I think, someone said that they could just drop out of the sky on top of us.
If you live in the Ozarks, like, we have most of our lives, I think you kind of get accustomed to tornadoes being around, but not affecting you personally. And so, yeah, you see the Joplins and you see the damage that can be done kind of after the fact, but in the time that I've lived here, I've never actually had one hit in a neighborhood that I've lived in. Right. Even though it hits all around us, we kind of take for granted that, well, it's, maybe not going to be us.
What's the difference between when you guys are like, okay, there's a tornado warning, and like, oh, I really need to go? What are the signs?
Truthfully, it's the sky. Like, if the sky is that weird color that's just, ominous, and it just kind of freaks you out to look at it, and there's a tornado warning, that's when I shove the cat in the carrier and get in the car and go.
And when people start reporting that they're seeing signs of damage, so you've got some tangible proof, that's a pretty good sign that something severe is on the way.
Honestly, Joplin, for me, made a huge difference on how serious I take our tornado warning. We have family in Joplin. We have friends, close friends, that had a really bad experience with that tornado. And so I think seeing that something like that could happen to someone that you love makes it way more serious for you.
I think I rely on my, group of friends that I follow on Twitter and Facebook, that if I don't see it posted directly from KSPR, I see it shared. I see it somebody else just posting about their damage or the impending storm.
How about Mitchell here? You're 15. You're in the social media age. What's it like for you and I guess your friends and whatnot when it comes to that?
It's more Twitter than Facebook. I guess nobody my age usually uses Facebook anymore. A lot of people want to go outside and just watch it. I don't know. I guess that's just our generation.
To see the entire town hall meeting, just log on to the Survive the Storm section at kspr.com.
Many people mistakenly think that a highway overpass like this is a safe place to seek shelter during a tornado. Far from it. In fact, it could be one of the worst places to seek shelter. Moving up under the bridge, it looks certainly pretty sturdy. We've got all this concrete, and it looks like it's sheltered from any kind of wind and tornado, but you get that wind accelerating under the bridge, and that's where big problems can occur. Wind speeds in tornadoes can reach over 200 miles per hour. These winds can channel debris like dirt, sand, and rocks at incredible speeds that can easily penetrate clothing and skin, causing serious injuries and possibly death. The safest thing to do is get out of the tornado's path and seek shelter in a sturdy structure. Lying flat in a ditch or ravine also is an alternative to protect yourself from flying debris. Don't try to outrun a tornado in a car. Be aware. Know your surroundings. Get updated weather information and take personal responsibility for your own safety.
One of America's greatest pastimes is going to your theater and seeing a movie. But a lot of times what Hollywood likes to do is they take real things like weather and they center their movies around them. But how do you know what's real and what's not? I'm here to debunk Hollywood's biggest offenders.
We'll start with something that you know is fake, but we've had questions about the 2013 sci-fi hit Sharknado. Waterspouts can go onto land. It happens all the time in Florida, and they do pick up many things from the ocean, including sea life. But waterspouts are usually too weak to hurtle things into the air. That means chances of a sharknado happening anytime soon are pretty slim.
So this next film, it was a huge blockbuster back in 2004, and it has some real science behind it. The Day After Tomorrow.
I'll stay away from the whole global warming thing on this one, but there are some really interesting weather things happening here.
Now, with this movie, we have this whole superstorm on land thing, but remember, hurricanes and huge storms happen only over oceans, not over land.
This thing looks just like a hurricane.
Nothing could sustain a storm that big if it did reach land. This is why tropical systems break up shortly after making landfall. Plus, nothing could get that big this far north. There's a reason hurricanes form in warm ocean waters. That's how they get started.
Number 2 is a big no-no with this one, is this whole flash freeze thing. The movie claims that it's taking air from the upper atmosphere and skyrocketing it down to the surface, allowing everything to freeze on contact. Here's the thing, that can't happen.
First of all, air actually warms as it comes down from the atmosphere. This is because as air sinks, it compresses and gets warmer. So while flash freezing sounds really neat, it was a pretty poor movie plotline.
And finally, one of my favorites, and probably a lot of yours at home,
is the weather blockbuster that really started the storm chasing phenomenon.
But there's a lot of parts of this film that have people scratching their heads.
First of all, they're trying to outrun a tornado.
Folks, never try to outrun them. They're unpredictable. Your best bet is to take shelter immediately. And then we have our infamous end scene where our storm-chasing couple ties themselves to a pole to survive the storm.
My analysis, there's no way they would have survived this one. While the pole may have allowed them to not be swept away, an F5 tornado going directly over them would whip them around. They would collide with each other, and the pole no less. That could have killed them right then and there. And what about all the debris they were dodging before? There's no way that not one piece of wood or metal or anything else wouldn't have hit them.
You can't deny, though, even after 20 years, Twister's special effects were super cool. But it just kind of goes to show you, you can't believe everything that you see. Just do a little bit of research behind it. You'd be surprised what Hollywood tries to cook up.
One question we get a lot after a storm has passed is how to determine whether the damage left behind by a storm is from a tornado or straight line winds. And one way to do that is by looking at the damage pattern left behind. For example, trees. When a storm rolls through with straight line winds, the winds push the trees in the same general direction the wind is blowing. And essentially all of the trees will be laying down in the same pattern. In contrast, if the damage is the result of a tornado, the wind will scatter the trees in a variety of different directions, since the winds of a tornado are rotating violently in a cyclonic motion. So the next time you are curious about what may have occurred, go out and check out that damage pattern. And then make sure you notify the National Weather Service or KSPR so we can go out and survey that damage. And then when it's safe to do so, send us some pictures or videos so we can share that with our viewers.
Coming up on Survive the Storm, a new policy for activating outdoor warning sirens.
There's a lot of confusion amongst the public when the tornado sirens are actually activated.
Is your town or county on board with the new guidelines? Plus, how the KSPR weather team interacts with you on social media and what we're doing to give you an early warning for severe weather this season. But first, did you know that during a lightning storm, it is safe to talk on your cell phone, but it's not safe to use a landline phone connected through your house to the power lines outside. Lightning could hit these lines, carrying an electric current right to your handset. Survive the Storm returns after this.